Hello and welcome back to the Career Cravings podcast. Today I'm breaking down how my clients are getting highballed in their offers instead of lowballed. So recently, if you've been listening along, you have heard people come on this podcast like Candace and Shrey, who both said they got an unexpected offer with a director title, even though they were both interviewing for roles that were like manager level. And Shrey was actually interviewing for a contract role that they turned full-time director, while my client Ashley got a 50% salary increase that she wasn't expecting. Or Jo, who I had on the podcast in April, said she received an offer that was so good, it was beyond her wildest dreams, and she could not even negotiate it. So I'm going to break down the secret to how they are getting offers in this market that they weren't expecting. And these candidates, they're not lucky. They are strategic. They have taken steps to become top candidates, and companies need to hire them. They want to hire them so badly that they are then getting offers that they never even expected, and offers that are higher than what they said they were looking to get in their initial interviews. And I just want to say this even louder. They didn't get these higher offers because the market is super generous right now. No, they didn't get these high offers because they learned how to negotiate. They got these offers by becoming a top candidate first, which then helps the whole negotiation process. And that is what I am breaking down today. So we're going to get into the truth about negotiation that no one really wants to say. I'm breaking it down. So let's dive in. Hey, it's Irina Pozan, and welcome back to the Career Cravings podcast. This podcast has a simple mission. It's to help ambitious professionals like you build the career and life that you've been craving. Over the past 15 years, I've worked as an HR leader, designed hiring systems, led recruitment teams, and I've sat on the other side of the hiring table. I've seen what works in today's job market, what doesn't, and what separates those good candidates from the ones that actually land their dream roles. Now I'm bringing everything I've learned straight to you. Each episode is packed with actionable insights and tools to help you land your dream role sooner. Now let's dive in. So I know there's a ton of advice out there that says know your worth, never accept the first offer, ask for more. And yes, we all know this, but the reality is that not everyone gets to negotiate. Only top candidates truly have the ability to negotiate in these conversations. So I'm going to break down how you can become a top candidate before you even get to the negotiation stage so that negotiations go better than expected. So the people that don't get to negotiate are desperate candidates, right? They are not the ones that rambled on and on. They are not the ones that look nervous in the interviews. They're not the ones that barely made it through to the interview. These people often have options and they are sitting in the power seat. So when it comes to getting that offer, they earned it from the very first interview, from the time they opened their mouths. The company knew, okay, this is someone we want to keep in our roster. This is someone that we want to keep talking to. This is someone that we cannot lose. And that's the real game. So if you're looking up negotiation strategies when you already received an offer, it is often too late. We're going to talk about what to do when you do get that offer, but I want to backtrack and start at the very beginning. Why Jo got more money than she expected, why Candace and Shrey got better titles and more money, why contract roles suddenly become full-time, right? Why some of my clients are able to negotiate more flexibility when the offer comes. It's because they started with this first. They learned how to interview like a top candidate. And this is one thing that most candidates never master. And negotiation power starts before you ever negotiate. If you show up like the panel's number one choice, if you blow the others out of the water, if you're the most confident communicator, if you are the clearest at telling your story, if you are the candidate that has options and they know you have other offers on the table, if you're the person who articulates the ROI on why they should hire you the most effortlessly, chances are it is going to be a lot easier for you to negotiate when that time comes. Companies then don't want to lose you. They'll push the comp, they'll upgrade the title, they'll upgrade, if it's a contract to full-time, they'll approve exceptions because they are scared to lose you. And that is the power seat that I talk about and something that I want to break down. So a lot of candidates, their biggest fears and why they don't negotiate. I mean, we always hear of, especially women, a lot of people don't take the time to negotiate an offer. And it's often coming down to fear. And people think, what if I don't look grateful? What if they take my offer away? Right? So these are fears. Or what if they say no? Like, then what? And after leading recruitment and being in HR for as long as I have, I'll tell you that companies expect you to negotiate. And it's a normal part of the process. Now, sometimes there are times where the company will give you an offer and they will literally say, hey, we went to the very top of our band. There is absolutely zero room to negotiate. Please know that. And if that is the case, then that is a very different and unique situation. If that is the case, they already told you there is no room to negotiate, then of course they're not leaving that room for you. But in a typical offer, what happens is they usually leave a little bit on the table, maybe 10%, where they know you're going to come back and they won't want to say no, and they'll meet you somewhere in the middle. This is a part of the process. Now, if you do hear, we went to the top of the band, there is zero room to negotiate, don't even try it. If you hear that, then absolutely, there's something different you can ask. And in that case, what you should ask for when you are the top candidate, you can ask something like, okay, totally understand, and I understand budgets are tight. Now, that being said, are any other parts of the offer that are negotiable, such as the vacation, the benefits? And we can talk about all the things that you can also negotiate later in this episode. But for the regular hiring process, companies are literally waiting for you to negotiate. So I want to say that loud and clear. We're going to expect that you're going to do this once you do get the offer. But one of the biggest mistakes that I see is people try to negotiate way too early. And most people, they're trying from the first interview. They're like, hey, how much flexibility do you have here? Can I work from home on Fridays? What are the benefits like? And that is way too soon. I never want you to go into an interview and start to negotiate that early in the process, and if you give such a high salary band at that point, it is way too early. Now, the reason why I say it's too early is because they don't know you, they don't like you, they don't trust you yet. They're just meeting you. And it is way too soon to give them that much information where they don't even know if they want to pay that much for your skills. They don't even know what your skills are. You've never really spoken in depth. So it is way too soon to start negotiating specifically that early, trying to get the highest salary range in that first interview. No, this is about starting the conversation and instead making yourself show up as the top candidate, where then it becomes a no-brainer that of course you can demand the top of the range. Of course, it is expected that you would get a higher salary the better that you do through the interview process. So I want you to focus less on trying to actually start negotiating early, starting to get more benefits, starting to get more flexibility in that first conversation. There is literally no point in doing that until you have the offer. Until a written offer is in your hand, it is not the time. Your number one priority and focus needs to actually be on becoming the top candidate so that you can do an exceptional job through the interview process so that they love you. And when you are in the power seat of when they already know you are better than the other people that they have interviewed for this role, when they know you have accomplished great things, when you've done similar things, when you prove that you are the best candidate and they really want at this point to just give someone an offer and to stop interviewing, they are going to want to push beyond maybe the original limits that they had for the role. So please, do not try to negotiate too early because, again, this is the biggest mistake that I see and it's not doing you any favors. Okay? So when I talk about becoming the top candidate, what am I talking about? So this is my 4-part framework. It is showing up and knowing how to get noticed with the best possible resume that is perfectly aligned to their role. Listen to the first 4 episodes of this podcast if you haven't yet, because I break down each one of these. I go super deep for half an hour on each one. Then you're going to want to have the best possible first impression, which is your pitch. I break down exactly how to do that. Then you're going to want to master your interview skills so that you can depict your value in the best possible light. And the people that can articulate their value the best through this process are then able to negotiate much, much higher rates. So here's what I want you to do. Once you've done all that, you've gone through the interview process, you have not tried to negotiate too early, you get to the offer stage, here's what I want you to do. So most people, when they get that offer, they try to do too much too soon. So you might say you got an incredible offer and you're like, oh my God, this is freaking amazing. This is a dream. I can't wait. Da, da, da. And you want to accept it on the spot. And they literally accept it on the spot without thinking through all of the details. I don't want you to do this either. Now, other people will be taken back that it's not as great of an offer that they thought. It's not as high as what they wanted. And they right away start doing the opposite. And they start trying to negotiate live on this call when they get this verbal offer without having the time to process and really think about it. I don't want you to do that either. So most people feel pressure to answer. And I'll tell you, when I got my HR manager job and it was my dream offer and it was the salary that I wanted, it was like making 40% more than I used to make. On the spot, I wanted to be like, yes, 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 yes. And I did pretty much say I was going to sign off. But really looking back, and the advice that I give all my clients now is that what you should be doing is expressing gratitude first when you receive the offer, saying, thank you so much. I'm so grateful. This is so aligned with, my dream of working at your organization. So always gratitude first. And then next, I want you to say that you're so looking forward to seeing the written offer, going through all the details, and then getting back to them fairly quickly. Okay? So that is what I want you to do. Now, if it is a terrible offer, they've lowballed you, it's like 10K less than they even said they were going to give you, you're unsure what happens, a lot of people will start asking questions like, hey, this is a lot lower than what I thought. What's happening here? And so on. And what that does is it's not a strategic response that's planned for. So you end up not being as succinct, not having a clear business case. And then sometimes the company can think you are not grateful. And that is where you can risk getting your offer retracted. That doesn't happen often, but when you don't enter the process with grace, sometimes it can nip you in the butt. Okay, so that's why I always say when you receive an offer, even if it's the best offer ever, even if it's the worst offer ever, you are saying, thank you so much for recognizing me. Thank you for selecting me out of all of the other candidates. I can't wait to dive in deeper and get back to you in whatever. And you can give them a timeline of when you're going to get back to them. Now, then what I want you to do is look at the offer in detail. Think about it. Do your research. Look at the city that it's in, the type of role, what the average salary is, and think about which elements of the offer you want to negotiate strategically. You can even use AI, ChatGPT, to really think about, okay, what are the things that you think you can negotiate? And I want you to only pick one, maybe two things to negotiate. I've had clients come to me and they're like, hey, I got this great offer. I want to negotiate these 5 things. And I'm like, oh, wait, what? That is so confusing. What happens is often companies meet you in the middle. So they don't say yes to like every single request that you have. They're not just going to blanket be like, of course, yes, here are all the things you asked for. They're going to pick and choose. And when you ask for too many things, what you're doing is letting them choose essentially what they're going to give you, which you never want that. You want to be strategic about what you really need. So for example, maybe it's base salary. Maybe it's the bonus terms. Maybe it's the benefits start date. Maybe it's vacation. There's all these different things that you can negotiate. So I want you to think about 1 or 2 things you really want to focus on so that you can get a yes on those items. Okay. Now, if they say no, you can default to some of those other things that maybe you were interested in as well. So rule number 1, never accept the offer on the spot. Never, never. Even if it's your dream, even if you're excited, I want you to share the excitement, share the gratitude, and say you're going to, take a look, you're going to review the details and get back to them within 24, 48 hours after the weekend, whatever that is. So gratitude first, space second. Now your space is your leverage. So when I talk about my clients like Candace, who was recently on the podcast and got 3 offers, Aaron, who was on the podcast, that got 3 offers. How did they do that? We talked about it in the episode, so you can go back and listen. But essentially, they created space. They essentially ended up saying to their other companies they were interviewing with, like, hey, in the spirit of transparency, I want you to know a recent development that's happened in my job search. I've received a written offer. And with that, I wanted to share it with you because I'm really interested in working for your organization. Now, what that does is creates leverage. Now you have space with the company that gave you the offer, and now you're leveraging it with all of the other people you're interviewing with to then make sure that they respond if they want to hire you. And this is not a pressure tactic. It literally is the truth. You've received an offer. Now you want everyone to know that may also want to give you an offer. And often what that happens is creates urgency and they get really excited. And now if they liked you as well, they're going to move a little bit faster to either finish your interviews or to also make you an offer. That's how Candace and Aaron both got 3 offers each in today's job market. So they showed up first as a top candidate that was sought after. As soon as they got one offer, they leveraged it with the other companies they were interviewing with, and they always expressed gratitude. And they created some space to also create time to really think about which opportunity is the most aligned to them. Aaron ended up choosing his selection because it was the closest to his home as one of his determining factors. He had 2 completely dream offers, and he was like, well, this one takes like a couple minutes to drive to, while this one is a longer commute. And that was part of the negotiating. Candace ended up picking the one where she loved the leadership team and she felt right at home as soon as she spoke to them. It was the best interview process she had been through. So it's like you will create space to then create leverage for yourself. So you could possibly get into a multiple offer situation. But you can never do this if you accept an offer on the spot. And you can never do this if you start negotiating right away. Part of your negotiation tactic is being thoughtful and saying you need a little bit of time, you need a little bit of space to review, and you're going to get back to them. There is absolutely nothing wrong with this. Now, I've had a client that once there was like a big red flag kind of company. They gave her an offer. It was on a Friday night at like 5:30 p.m. I remember her texting me. And then they wanted her to start on Monday. So she's like, hey, I need until Monday to think about it. And they're like, no, we need you in the office. And if you can't come on Monday, then this isn't the place for you. So there are red flags that come up. This is very rare. After like 750 offers with working with my clients on them, that's only happened literally one time. So that's not something that's going to happen very rarely. And then you can determine whether or not that's the right place for you. Okay. So gratitude first, never accepting on the spot, creating space and creating leverage. This is what's going to get you the most negotiating power after you've become a top candidate. Now, we're going into this episode already assuming you're already got the top interview skills. You know what your pitch is. You have the best resume to get noticed. So you have multiple interviews to generate a lot of interest. We are saying this is like table stakes. This is already stuff that's in play for you, okay? We're assuming that. If not, again, go back to the first 4 episodes of this podcast to really break down each one of those in more detail on how to become a top candidate through the process we're talking about. So when we talk about negotiating with excellence, this works every time. You're going to say, thank you so much. Step 1 is the gratitude. I'm really excited about the role. Step 2, you're going to anchor your excellence. You're going to say something like, I'm so excited about making a great impact here. I also think, this is the best next opportunity for me. Then step 3 is you're not going to come up with 5 things. You're going to take time to really assess strategically what is 1 or 2 things you want to negotiate. And then you're going to come back to them with one clear request. I always like to say that over a phone call, this is the best way to have a negotiation conversation. So you could say something like, after reviewing the offer, I wanted to know, is the base salary flexible? And then you can determine if that's something you are able to negotiate or if you should be moving on to your second or third request, like vacation, for example. Often the base very much is negotiable. So if so, you could say, okay, amazing. And then you can come back with a specific request. You can say, based on other conversations and the market and the industry, in my research and in my conversations, I've seen the salary. And that is what I was targeting for this role as well. And then you can make the ask of a specific number for the offer to move to, which could be maybe like 5K, 10K, 20K, depends on your level, how much more you're going to ask for. Maybe you have two things that you're asking for. I've had a client that there was a weird parking situation. She got a parking spot included. I've had others get more flexibility, working from home. This is now the time to really look at the benefits, to think about, is there anything else you want to negotiate? And when you're a top candidate, you're able to do that more effectively because you're not afraid of losing the opportunity because they're just as interested in you as you are in them. So this is not feeling. This is business justification. It's not emotional. It's not like I need more because I want more. It's like market-based with role clarity for this level of responsibility. And based on my other conversations for, HR managers in Toronto, the range that I was looking to receive is actually between 120 and 140K. Is that within your range? And you can go back and ask them that. And the tone of negotiation, some people really want to play hardball. My tone that I always recommend is a partnership tone. This is one of the first times you're working together on something. You're discussing it. This is a potential kind of conflict situation. And what I want the tone to say is that you are a true partner. You are making this decision together, right? Your tone is like, I would love to make this work. Let me know what's possible, right? It's not like an ultimatum where I'm going to go and work somewhere else if you say no. It is a very professional partnership tone. You're not fighting them, you're collaborating with them, and that's how you win. I have a script that I share with all of my clients when they're ready to negotiate. We make it very specific for their offer, but it really is based on this partnership tone with this gratitude tone, and then talking about the possibility of how you can make this work together in both of your best interests. So, what are some things that you can negotiate besides salary? So there could be the base salary, which is the most common. It could be the bonus. Now, if base and bonus are not something that's negotiable because of the ranges within their company, so maybe they, have everyone else in a specific range, so they're not able to offer you more. I've seen this happen as well. Now, what I've also seen is signing bonuses. So my client Upsana, who has been on the podcast earlier in the year, if you go back and listen to her episode, one thing that she said is her signing bonus paid like a lot more than what she invested in joining my HR Star program. And the reason for that is there were some things that were not negotiable, but they were willing to give her a great signing bonus to come join the company, which is a win-win. Also, vacation, flexible title I've seen in Candace's and Aaron's case, if you've been listening along as well. Parking spots, benefits starting from day one is another thing. Sometimes there's a waiting period for you to have access to certain benefits. And it's not a problem to get access from day one for certain employees as well, as long as you are showing up as a top candidate. So the truth is that most people don't actually struggle with the negotiation itself because you can literally Google that. You can get a script, you can get ChatGPT to write down what you're kind of looking for. That's not where people struggle. They actually struggle with showing up as the top candidates so that they can have the leverage in order to negotiate. And that is what all of the other steps that we talked about with the resume, the pitch, the interview skills, that's where that comes in. If you don't present yourself as a top candidate, the truth is if you ask for too much, they'll just be like, no problem. And they'll go and hire someone else. And it will be difficult to even get one offer, let alone multiple offers. This is where your career story is shaky. This is where you don't articulate your value. So they're not really sure if you'd be able to do a good job. They just think they're taking a chance on you. You'd probably be able to do it. These are people that sound desperate. Maybe they're, unemployed between opportunities. They know that they will take anything that they can get. Or maybe you sound like you need the job instead of really choosing it. So these are things that can really hinder that negotiation process that people don't even realize are part of the negotiation. So you can't negotiate powerfully if you don't show up powerfully, period, point blank. Negotiation is the reward for being the strongest candidate, not the shortcut. So in closing, if you take nothing away from this episode but this, let it be this. Negotiation begins from your very first interaction and not by actually trying to negotiate the salary or any of the benefits up front. Not when the offer comes. It's to those that show up with confidence, with the energy, like you belong in the role, already acting as if you have done it. You are the right, best person. And when you become the top candidate, that is when the offers flow and the negotiations become effortless. I really wanted to address this today because it has been a theme. I'm sure you heard of like the 4 people that I recently had on the podcast, and it's a theme of like getting offers better than expected. And why is this happening when everyone else, so many others, are struggling in the market? Well, it's because they learned how to show up as the top candidate. Because when you become the best candidate, you become the person that team doesn't want to lose. And that's when negotiation is flowing like water, when it becomes easy. So after listening to today's episode, you know exactly what to do. And strategically, your negotiations start way before you get that offer letter. I know if you apply these tips, this is going to change the way your next offer comes in. So I can't wait to hear about what your biggest takeaway is. Leave it for me in the reviews, in the comments section, or just send me a DM if this was helpful. And I love getting more money into the hands of top candidates, into the hands of people that are applying this strategy. So please, if you apply it, let me know if it worked for you. And I cannot wait to see you in the next episode. Hey, before you go, if you've enjoyed listening to today's show, I would love your support. Please take a moment to leave a review anywhere where you listen to podcasts. And here's the exciting part. I'm running a special contest and giving away a one-on-one session with yours truly. All you have to do is leave a review, take a screenshot, and send it to me in my DMs. All of my contact info is in the show notes. I appreciate you so much, and I cannot wait to build the career and life that you've been craving together. See you next week.